Hi, good evening, everyone. I am really privileged to be here today, and the opening insights that Sam and Ajit gave were truly very valuable today. And the most fascinating part of this topic is that we are still debating, maybe decades later, whether reach or sales is the right KPI to measure. The good part is that we have an incredible set of very accomplished marketing and brand leaders who come from both sides of the world, people who've built strong traditional brands in the CPG space, people who have consulted and advised businesses and brands, people from the platform side of the world, and a very accomplished founder and marketeer from Nobel Hygiene. So welcome all of you. And without much ado, I'd like to dive straight into this very interesting topic. Should we call it like the tug of war? Should we call it the quintessential friction between what should we optimize for between reach and brand building, reach or sales? Should we call it the inevitable quest to really try and balance in a world where we see consumers are spending more and more time on the small screen? Mobile is a very inherent part of our lives, where the classic marketing funnel is being broken. So I'd like to start by asking a very fundamental question. What does brand building mean in 2026? Let me start by asking Raghavendra on what his views are.
Okay, I represent FMCG business, put it in a very crude way, 1.14 crore retail outlets, and 60 to 70% is the kind of people whom we can talk through GT, what we call it as. So our issue is that how do I get the business moving? So if I were to define that, how do I make my revenue? That is how we define it. So brand building to us is all about how do I get the revenue into the system. Yesterday it was reach, today it has to be something else. We are game for it. To us, that's what brand is. Thank you.
Who's next?
I don't think it's changed from 1996. The concept of brand building, right? A brand is supposed to respond to or give me a stimuli for my emotions so that I can have a emotional transaction with you, which builds my loyalty. On the other side, a brand is supposed to perform on sales. Maybe the media has changed over here. Maybe it's, somebody keeps telling me that, life is a narrative somebody's trying to sell it to you and you constantly play catch up. So maybe it's one of those phenomena, but at the basic level, I think the principles of brands are exactly the same.
Sudipto, how about you?
Look, I mean, this is such an interesting question, right? And there are so many points of view in the world right now. So if you listen to Scott Galloway says that brands as an instrument are dead. Okay. I've had the privilege over the last 1 year to look at 20 different brand owners and about 50, 60 odd variants. And having done that, a couple of patterns are really clear. That anybody who's not invested in building the brand has actually declined. Okay, that pattern is very clear. You don't invest in brand building for 3-4 years, you will see the problems. However, I do think the business of brand building has changed. We are all coming out of a 50-60 year super cycle of using a couple of simple instruments to build a brand, which is there were few brands in every category. You build reach, you manage frequency, okay, you cover as many months or weeks in the air as possible, and voila, you get your penetration, you get your volume. I think that was dependent upon a couple of premises, and the premises were few brands on the offline retail shelf, pump money, offtake will happen. But when the whole thing goes to the online marketplace, and you have a huge range of brands available, and you collapse the distance between discovery and fulfillment, the game does change. So the need to build a brand doesn't go away, but how much of that is required to build sales in the early parts of the cycle of the brand development stage, I think that game has changed.
Interesting. Kartik?
Well, the academic in me says a brand is there, exists to reduce choice overload. The marketer in me says that it's there for emotional messaging and to ensure consumer stickiness. And the business owner in me says that, well, the brand should command a premium and keep selling. So is it a simple answer? No, but that's what marketers are supposed to do, condense all of these objectives into one coherent answer that will work for most companies.
Deepti?
So I'll give an example first. Today, how, as a person or anyone in this room, how happy we are has no bearing of how we scored in 10th standard, right? But anyone who has children in 10th standard would know that right now, as a 10th standard student, that is the only KPI you're focusing on. So I think that the topic that we are touching today is the same thing. There is sales growth is the goal. It's the mission. You build a brand so that it sells, right? It gives you profit. And reach, CTR, CPM, all are KPIs. You optimize for a particular point in that journey. So that's the purpose, and we are in the age of AI. Today we can, target a customer, aggregated customer base basis their CIBIL. So in that kind of a sophisticated environment, I do not think that we should, talk about KPIs versus goal as interchangeable. Goal remains profit. Without profit, there is, without growth, sales growth, there is no business. But all of these are KPIs. So that's my view.
It's a very interesting pivot from whatever very diverse perspectives. In a world where the macro is very volatile and dynamic, and you have let's first really acknowledge the fact that today's CMO's jobs is incredibly tough. Imagine the consumer journey is fragmented. There are 40 or 50 plus platforms asking for money from CMOs. And then there is the CFO who's constantly asking, show me the bang for the buck. In this world where reach builds the brand and sales, a sales-first strategy is trying to deliver on the ROI, when do you think in this whole battle or quest between balancing the both, does the strategy, in terms of balancing the both, when do you think the strategy starts eroding the brand's ability to charge a premium? If you are in the space of building premiumization or more brand love, do you think this is a challenge that you encounter in your day-to-day jobs?
I can take that.
Sure.
So first, the question about sales part of it, right? So I think whether you're building the brand or whether you're looking at sale, eventually everything is sale. Whether it's short-term or long-term, that is the only difference, right? One is an immediate pipeline and one is something that I'm developing for a longer term, and both are important. Otherwise, you always struggle between something which is very transactional to the memories that you leave behind in the consumer's mind, right? So that's on the sales side of it. I think the second part, which is when does the erosion of premium happens for the particular brand, I think that has not necessarily got to do with purely the sales focus or the brand building focus. It is how thoroughly are you able to go through with the purpose that you founded the product and the brand with. I can take Truecaller's example for it. We're very clear that we work on giving protection or giving an environment where you can safely communicate with efficiency, right? The day I shortchange that day my consumer will go away. I mean, I have to so strongly stick on to making sure that revenue does not cloud my focus on the purpose, but at the same time, there is a focus on short-term sales and long-term sales. That's my bread and butter and growth. So both work.
So I want to bring an interesting perspective in this, and going to the work of Thomas Friedman and System 1, System 2 thinking. Our brain basically thinks in very rational and irrational ways. So the bulk of our brain is programmed to think very quickly, automatically. And there are only few cases in which the brain does considered decisions, right? Therefore, in the light of that, a brand has two jobs. A brand is a vehicle which transports reliability and quality consistently again and again. It's a mental shortcut for that. The second thing a brand does is it connects you to a sense of identity, okay? Which means a brand makes you feel something about yourself, right? And these two get embedded in our brain as shortcuts. You see a brand, you immediately know that it has quality, and the brand makes you feel something, and these two together allow you to command a premium. As soon as you shortchange one of them, your ability to command a premium goes down, which means if you're functional, but you don't make a brand make you feel something, somewhere you're going to compete with functional forces. Some other brand will come, they will match you on functional parity, and gone. You don't have an ability to draw that sale in. But because a brand makes you feel something, you irrationally dismiss a lot of other competition and still go for that. So it's both sustainability of sales as well as premium. That's my...
I have an FMCG example to give you. See, we are in the business of toilet soap. Just 10 years back, they said that toilet soaps will die. Only face wash and others will come there. But toilet soap is a reality today. The question asked is sales versus premiumization. Okay. When does the sales will take over? Will it affect? Definitely affect when I push my urgent work replaces the important work. Okay. As long as you stick to what he said about the brand purpose and you have kept your important work ahead of the urgent work, okay, brands will sustain. Today, what we are shortchanged today will hound us down. Okay. As businesses, we are lalchi. We would like to do things which will help us to do business, and we have been built by those fathers and forefathers. They gave us enough bandwidth to do important work. Okay. Sam sir sitting in this room, I was 25 years back, what he said still holds good. But people who shortchanged them, they are still like me. There will be enough juniors who came up in front of him. They shortchanged and we paid the price for it. So the lessons are in front of it. So nothing changes. If you want to premiumization today, as a brand in the market, if I were to sell my brand, we know premiumization exists. You do shortchange, we know that brand leaders will also fail. That has happened in front of us. Hence, it is important work versus urgent work which will determine this. Thank you.
It's a very good segue into my next question. If you really start peeling the onion, and when you just talk about reach, for example, and all of you have kind of really worked on or worked with brands in helping them shape their brand strategies. In today's context, what does reach mean to you? Because reach could be 10 million audiences seeing your brand ad on a very fragmented digital video platform like TikTok or YouTube or Instagram or Snapchat, or 10 million views that you garner on a single day on a big sporting event. How do you really decide what is better reach or optimal reach when you choose your media strategies? And this is really about reach and building brand. Deepti?
I'll take that. So I think what we are talking about here is brand building and reach versus sales and or this kind of a conversation. So reach is no longer a unified metric. It is when we talk about a campaign, because almost all brands are most of the time always on digital. So when we talk about reach, it means we talk about incremental reach. And there is no right or wrong answer saying is it better to build it through impact or through channel, but what we have to think through is who is the customer. The customer today consumes media on definitely more than one screen. So any reach that we are planning to build cannot be built on one medium. It has to be built on multimedia. So therefore, at least 3 different screens remind, and that's how the over incremental reaches build up. So I don't think, so that is the first thing to think through, that what is that incremental reach that we are building over and above our continuous digital efforts or whatever is continuous on. And second is also, we have 2 FMCG brands sitting here. We also know that in today's day and age, whatever we see, like you say, impact, etc., consumer is not only the end user, especially for FMCG brands, right? The confidence of a stockist or the retailer also depends on what media they are consuming. So reach also has a part of the regional print ad or the regional TV news ad, which all builds that whole confidence in the ecosystem. So like I said, the reach is a campaign metric and it has to be evaluated on the campaign goal.
Raghavendra, you have a point of view on it?
Yeah, it's a favorite subject. We see here a kind of a fear saying that fragmentation, okay? So I would like to urge this, okay? Please do not see this as a threat or a fragmentation. We do not see reach as a number. We see them as audience whom I want to do business with, okay? So if I touch somebody and expect them to come and love and hug me, it will not happen, okay? So I need to connect with them. I need to build our relationship with them. So we have fought with Madison today, as I'm talking to you, to build relationships which are sustainable. Hence, we refuse to. We have teams which will interpret a media definition to our business outcome. So we need more and more such experts who would be able to link a media measurement to business outcomes. Okay? Hence, we refuse to see them as a quantified numbers. Thanks to all the seniors in the industry today, we do not have a measurement. Hence, there is no concept called reach today. Okay? So I would urge saying that let's get away from this and look them as the people whom you would like to do business with, have built a connection and a sustained relationship to be called as a business outcome.
Can I double down on that? I mean, I hate the number, I hate the phrase absolute reach. What does that mean? And there is no metric for purity of reach, right? With screen fragmentations, with the amount of white noise that exists out there, 1 view versus 1 million versus 100 million views is meaningless. We sell adult diapers. We are the largest category creators and brand leaders in the country. And a product like this requires deep connection, requires destigmatization. And does reach buy you that? No. And we have consumer studies of people who've suffered with urine leaks. They've suffered for 6 years. Their spouse does not know. They stopped going outside. They stopped drinking water. You think a reach of 12 plus frequency is going to solve that for him? Absolutely not. So there has to be something deeper.
Sudipto?
I think, it's kind of a depends answer, which is at one end, the most scarce thing today is collective attention. And a collective attention window, which as for example, an IPL will represent or KBC will represent, it's valuable because the context is a social, communal viewing context. And when a brand is exposed in that context, it builds in a certain way, which is why you will see that many new launches on IPL, okay, whether it is mobile phones or new products, do extremely well. On the other hand, if the brand development stage, which is where the depends part comes in, requires a lot of education like your category does, okay, is that attention window suitable and enough becomes a question. And as we start to go into this new, super complicated and fragmented era, I think we have to start thinking in terms of the business systems and therefore the media systems which tackle the business system, which is which part builds memory, which part builds attention, what will drive response. Like Deepti, you gave the example. There are some in which you need press because that's how you influence your distributors. That's part of your business construct, okay? And an essential component of how you shape the overall reach framework for that brand.
Kartik, let me challenge your point of view a bit.
Please.
You run a new age business, right? And when you look at the ecosystem, the startup ecosystem, new age businesses, I think it would be fair to say that most new age businesses are very, very hung up, and rightly so maybe. They are really trying to disproportionately drive growth, revenue, user acquisition, and they have investor pressure, right? So in most boardrooms, I would assume, the advertising discussion is often really and only centered around how many new customers did you acquire and at what cost. So therefore, in this context, brand building for any new business who's operating in a framework like this, is it really important, or is it like a vanity metric? Like, I just want to get users no matter where they come from.
Now you're forcing me to triple down.
Yeah.
No, but I will, because it makes absolute sense. Keep a ratio of your spends, right? And this is to the point that Raghavendra was mentioning before. If, and let's call out the devil in the room, which is performance marketing, which is what every startup out there is burning money behind. It's akin to strip mining, right? So if you keep drawing water out of the well, at some point in time, as it's happening in Punjab, you find water tables going lower and lower and lower. Who is replenishing that? I think the startup graveyard is littered with examples, especially in FMCG, foods and personal care, that there is only an X amount of revenue that you can drive purely using this construct. So yes, a brand matters. And when you have 60 competitors banging at your door, it matters even more, right? You're not selling a product purely per se. And your product, if needs to scale, if it needs to drive premium and value, it needs to be something more than just transactions, right? And I think that's at the core of it.
Raghavendra, let me come to you. Like somebody who's running a business selling traditional CPG brands, have you started seeing media in a very, what I call as a divided zone? If I want to build a brand, I should go to TV. If I want to drive sales, I should latch on to a QCom or an e-com player. How do you decide the mix and try to optimize these two matrices?
See, I have been groomed to this business around 25 years back from MP Ramchandran, who taught me. Okay, so when I walked into the room, I was very clear that he knows how to do the business, and I cannot teach him how to talk to customers. Okay, he's in his own way. He had cracked who is his customer, how will he build it. So if I were to take that question today, it's not that he didn't know how to do business. He exactly knew. Language was different. Okay. Today we make the mistake of compartmentalization for the so-called educated people. But the true businessman never makes that mistake. To him, in his mind, there is no. He is blessed like that. So he doesn't have any compartment. We go and over-educate him and teach him this compartment. Okay. So what is happening at our end today is that all of us are seeing the fragmentation and all this chase. Reach is an issue from a sales and communication point of view. There is one more angle to the story. Our own company's 4Ps, what we call as, is also undergoing a tremendous change. We need to match to the changes which are happening today. That's the reason I always say that 70% business from GT, my audience 80% have gone into digital mode. Okay, so how do I connect? Okay, so I need to bring that, connect both the systems. So whenever we are solving an issue at a communication, whether it is a reach or a connect, whatever, I need to change or solve it from my other 4Ps point of view, distribution, pricing and other part of it, okay? So when you see that coming together, that compartment does not exist. When you do not see it, where these clashes will happen and we'll just pass the bulb, I met my reach target, why your sales is not happening, it's keep happening. That would be my answer.
Hemant, as somebody who's trying to really grow Truecaller in India, what's your one-line pitch to, let's say, somebody like Kartik or somebody like Raghavendra? Does it vary or is it the same?
So I can give you instances, anecdotes of times when advertisers have come to us and said, hey, listen, I'm only looking at performance because of your reach and scale. The size that you guys have, 6 billion impressions in a single day, that's massive. Let's work on performance. And we say, no, don't do it. Don't do it, you'll waste your money. You still need to woo your customers on a daily basis before you go out and say, hey, I want money from you. We don't do that, right? And probably the best example was my yesterday's meeting with a client who I will not name. Just asked him, give me $1,000. He said, why? I said, exactly. Exactly. I mean, where did that common sense go? So I think like everybody has said over here, if I go back to reach, I actually break down reach in two different ways. One is the reach, which is building loyalty depending on different periods of time that the customer will make that purchase, right? You buy IPL, you're not targeting specific folks, you're targeting all India. And then there is targeted reach, which is supposed to perform the function of optimization, because that is the start of my pipeline, and that starts affecting my consumer acquisition cost or any other metric that you use for driving revenue. So I think those are distinct but at the same time related. anybody doing either or, either focusing only on reach or only on performance is lazy. And that's a shortcut. So
Hemant is sitting next to me, and so I want to offer this. We always fight off the share of voice. Okay, here's a gentleman sitting, unique reach, no SOV, no clutter, but we should have the guts to use that medium to build my consumer connect solution in a Tyler soaps being sold at 15 rupees. We need innovators to make it happen. Okay, here is an opportunity like this which exists, and we need media partners who will solve it for us. And we should have our own internal mechanism to make it work from the business point. Hence, I never get scared. I get excited when I see this fragmentation. It's a maza hai.
I mean, there's one more dynamic I think we should bring in as far as India goes. We often mentally, okay, and we heard this in one of the panels, that we work out heuristics in our head, which is a simple shortcut. You do reach, you'll get something, you'll get penetration, mental availability, etc. You do 50 plus every week, you'll get somewhere. These are mental shortcuts. And I think India has reached a place where we need to recognize that it's a hugely disparate country. I've seen so many category leaders who are sitting on 70, 80% penetration in state 1, and then state 4 and 5, they're as low as 20%. Okay, so I think when we say reach, and I've seen this in so many brands, so many operations, where maximizing reach becomes a very, very big part of what you do. And the question I'm raising is that the right way to look at our country right now is to de-average it. You de-average it by market, you de-average it by segments, you de-average it by channels, and then we choose the right thing to do for each of those, connection points and avenues. So if we build ground up instead of going top down, I think we start to get to the right answer. And this again, we've learned all these behaviors and habits as marketers because we've enjoyed a massive 50 to 70 year super cycle where all you needed to do was get the reach, get the GRPs, okay, pump in a great emotional ad, build your equity, and sales will come. I don't think that method is true anymore, simply because the market is far more complex, far more competitive than ever before.
Let's shift gears a bit. We haven't really talked about one very critical aspect, which is the creative side of the world, the advertising world. Do you believe the creative suffers when the KPI is sales and when there is inordinate amount of emphasis on convert every ad into a buy now button? The storytelling is very limited.
I'll take that. Then I'll ask you a counter question before I answer that. What do you think Snapchat is? Is it a performance channel or is it a branding channel?
I think it is both. And I'll tell you why it is both. Firstly, I can bet nobody uses Snapchat here because
We are not
90% of our users, oh great, I can
We
see
are
a couple
not.
of hands, which is wonderful to know. Oh great, thank you. We have a third hand. But having said that, I think one Snapchat is very different if you've not used it. It's not like, it opens to the camera, so it's about you. It doesn't open to a doom scroll like other social media platforms. And the fact that we have made, I'll just take 30 seconds, I'm not selling here. The serving of the ad is very, very different because the way the content, the messaging, and the camera is consumed in the app is very different. So I would say, to be fair, there is both the brand building side of that the platform offers, and then there are formats that allow you to drive acquisition. So it's both.
So I asked this question because it is a creator-first platform, right? For a client of ours into QSR, we are moving performance budgets on Snapchat because the brand feels, and rightly so, that Snapchat is the QSR pizza eating audiences, and the more they interact with the product or the offers, or they create their own toppings, there are multiple ways on which they can engage. The more content they create and more product they consume. So I think we have moved away from a stage where we know what is a good creative, or what is a bad creative, or if a creative gets compromised with a certain output in mind. Customer decides the creative. And going forward, there will be maybe one creative for everyone. So I don't think we can answer or we should answer, and we should never say a good or a bad creative, because like I said, every creative adds to the brand, and that depends on who the TG is. What looks good to me might not sell because I'm not the right TG for that product. So I think we are moving in a stage where we have to accept that the customer is smarter than us, in many cases younger than us, and they like their own face, what you said, and therefore every creative is hyper sensitive to interpretation.
Can I take just 2 seconds over there? I've seen this process very closely in my previous organization and now as well. I think the sweet spot is where creative meets data and is agile enough to be optimized. See, earlier creative, when it was sitting on other mediums, I do not like to call them traditional mediums. I think they're still larger than life, and they have their roles to play. The output of a creative was still probabilistic. Something will work. And of course, then there were measurements from the points of view of a language or a certain style of talking to a particular target audience, right? Now you have that data at your hand, which allows you to optimize every single thing, including a creative. And I think that's where the sweet spot really happens to a large extent. I'm sure that's what you see on Snap as well, right?
Raghavendra? Sir.
Sorry, I think time is up.
Yeah. Just the closing comment on this one.
Yeah. I just want to say that we dragged the media agency to become creative agency, and creative agencies are still struggling, saying what happened to them. Okay. So it's a question of how do we get the right creative solutions across media touchpoints. That's the game.
Well, thank you, everyone. This was, and I'm sure the debate continues. Probably we'll be talking about it next year and the year after, because this is never going to be a black and white scenario ever. Thank you, everyone, and thank you. A big round of applause for our very esteemed.
Thank you. Thank you.